That sounds like new music. Welcome to Farm Your Daily, a field forward podcast. I'm David Geiger, your host. I've been on Iowa TV and radio for the last decade, and I am excited to join you on this podcast, Farm Your Daily. Today on the program, we look at food systems here in Iowa and how folks here are working to fight hunger. Governor Tom Vilsack, CEO of the World Food Prize Foundation, joins us to speak about the Iowa Hunger Summit next month. Please be sure to like and follow the podcast as well as our social media at Field Forward Pod. We would love to have you join our community, keeping folks in Iowa informed about what is affecting our farmers. This is Farm Here Daily. And joining us on Farm Here Daily, we have former Governor Tom Vilsack, former Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, and CEO Tom Vilsack of the World Food Prize Foundation. I have a lot of titles there, Governor, and I appreciate you being here on Farm Here Daily. How are you doing, and how's everything going at the World Food Prize?
Well, it's an exciting time here at the World Food Prize. We're anxiously awaiting July 16th when we'll welcome several hundred folks here at the Hall of Laureates to discuss hunger and food and nutrition insecurity in the state of Iowa through our annual Hunger Summit. So we're excited about that, and we're obviously looking forward to October when we invite the world to Des Moines as part of the Borlaug Dialogues, and we'll have the opportunity of providing the World Food Prize to Dr. Geiger from Brazil, who was the laureate this year that was selected. So a lot of exciting opportunities. And in between all of that, a trip to India for a Borlaug Dialogue Next. The Dialogue Next program is trying to trace the steps of Dr. Borlaug around the world as he did his world-famous research. And he spent quite a bit of time in India and Pakistan, obviously saving hundreds of millions of lives there. And as a result, we're following his footsteps. So we're excited about the opportunity in early September to be in India for a couple of days.
That sounds fantastic. A really interesting time following the steps of Norman Borlaug, credited with over 1 billion lives saved or so from his work in wheat varieties and other agricultural work. So that's one of the big reasons why we have such a huge event and huge foundation in the World Food Prize here in Iowa. Is that right?
That's right. And it's important, I think, for Iowans in particular to understand that when the prize is awarded, it only happens in one place in the world. It only happens on one day in the year. It happens here in Iowa in the latter part of October. And it's something that's unique to Iowa. It's a one-of-a-kind effort that we put on, and we invite several thousand people from over 50, 60 countries to come to the U.S. To have a conversation about hunger, global food insecurity, and nutrition insecurity, and to basically lift up the set of issues surrounding hunger and food and nutrition insecurity around the world. But we don't want to slight what happens here in the United States. We don't want people to think that hunger is only an issue that occurs someplace else. It does, in fact, happen here. We do have food insecurity and nutrition insecurity here at home, and specifically in Iowa, which is why we have the Hunger Summit that will take place on July 16th at the Hall of Laureates. It's an opportunity for us to put the spotlight, if you will, very sharp spotlight on Iowa. 1 out of 8 Iowans currently food insecure, 1 out of 6 Iowa children food insecure. So those are statistics that I think we all need to keep in mind.
I want to talk more about the Iowa Hunger Summit, but first I do want to go over the meal packaging service that you guys are working on during the summit. Can you tell me about that?
Well, we like to have a deliverable from the events that take place that we sponsor or that we're involved with. It's not just about convening people and having dialogue and conversation that's important, but it's also about a plan of action and action steps. And with reference to the Hunger Summit, we have the opportunity to partner with Meals for the Heartland, where our goal is to package 35,000 meals, which will be distributed to Iowans at the event. We'll be basically packaging these things at the event. And then they'll be distributed, obviously, after the event. And so we're encouraging folks to help us with this effort to make sure that the afternoon of the summit, that we'll have this event from 2:30 to 3:30, we've set a pretty robust goal for ourselves to try to package 35,000 meals in that period of time. But we're excited about giving Iowans the opportunity to get a little food from the benefit from our food summit.
Let's go over the why. Why do you think it's important to package that many meals and support folks who are hungry?
Well, I think it's important, first and foremost, to give people an opportunity to actually do something positive, to feel good about the fact that they've at least addressed for an hour of their life or a day of their life the issues that surround hunger in Iowa, in the hopes that that spawns and spurs additional action and additional focus and additional effort throughout the year. Many of the people coming to this event are hunger fighters already. These are people that dedicate their lives. They may be from nonprofits like food banks and pantries. They may be from businesses that understand the importance of charitable giving and giving back to the community that's given so much to them. Hopefully, we have government leaders here who participate in this effort. Obviously, the faith-based community is heavily engaged and involved. They understand and appreciate the power of community and the importance of the community being empowered and focused on this issue. It's also academic institutions. They deal with the impact, our schools from kindergarten all the way through university. They deal with the consequences of hunger with students that aren't performing necessarily at their highest level if they happen to be hungry. So there's a broad array of folks who are impacted, affected by hunger. It's also important for us to make sure that people understand this isn't just about children. It's not just about students. It's about all of us. It's about all age ranges. We have a lot of senior citizens who are impacted and affected by hunger and food insecurity that are making very difficult choices between purchasing that prescription drug that's so important to their health or putting off an appointment going to the doctor because it's too expensive. They need the resources to buy food, or basically making the decision to go without food so they can afford medicine or gas for their car, whatever it might be. It's important for, I think, Iowans to understand that there are a number of Iowans, notwithstanding the fact that we are a state that cares deeply about our people. There's still 1 in 8 Iowa adults, one out of every 6 Iowa children who are impacted by food insecurity, which means at some point in the month, they just may not have enough in that cupboard to provide a full meal. And there's things we can do about it. And one of the things we can do is to meet on the afternoon of July 16th and work with our neighbors and friends from the community and package as many meals as we possibly can and get those distributed to people in need.
Your words hit a little close to home for me. I have some very close people to me involved in food pantries. My dad's a pastor and has been involved in multiple. I have a close friend who runs a food pantry in eastern Iowa. And the face of hunger is not what you see in third world countries when you're in the United States. The face of hunger is much different here, but it's still just as important. And highlighting that at something like the Iowa Hunger Summit, which is such a huge powerhouse when it comes to food and agricultural production, is really important to me, I think. And I think you guys really show it off in a way that demonstrates how diverse Iowa's food systems can be.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about this, just picture in your mind a working mom and dad. Maybe they're both working a minimum wage job. They've got 2 or 3 children. If you do the math, those minimum wage jobs don't necessarily pay a great deal amount of money, so that at the end of each month, it may be pretty tough for that family to scrape by, even with help and assistance that they might be able to get from government programs like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So food banks and pantries become extraordinarily important. Well, those food banks and pantries, they depend almost exclusively on volunteer and donation, right? I mean, if they don't have resources, if they don't have money that's donated, if they don't have product that's donated, if they don't have volunteers helping to package and store and distribute, then they're not going to be able to function to help that working family out. So picture an individual with a serious disability who is maybe getting a disability check. They would love to be able to go to work, but maybe they can't. And so they are living on a very small fixed income. That food pantry, that food bank, that SNAP payment all of a sudden becomes a lifeline. And they too, even with that help and assistance at the end of the day, may find it more difficult, except for the community speaking up and donating time and resources to ensure that they have access to nutritious food. Picture a senior citizen, somebody who's worked all their life, maybe in a low-wage job. They are living on a Social Security check, which is not going to be all that great. They're doing their best, but they've got bills to pay. They've got the utility bill to pay. They got gas in the car, maybe. They've got the need for medications that can be expensive. And they have to make these difficult choices at the end of each month. And so as we begin to picture our friends and neighbors people who live next door to us, people who live down the street from us, people who we may have worked with at some point in time. These are Iowans. They are in need. They've worked. They've sacrificed. They've played by the rules, and yet they find themselves in a very difficult circumstance and situation. And it, frankly, for people of color, it's even more significant. While the overall food insecurity rate in Iowa is roughly 12%, among blacks it's 30%, and among Hispanics it's 21%. So people of color also dealing with a significant percentage of their friends and neighbors impacted by all of this. And so it's just, I think it's important. I think it's interesting that we're having this podcast this week because at least at my church, the gospel, the mission, the message of the week was about the loaves and fishes story, which is a powerful story about the ability of community, the ability of people basically believing and Jesus seeing the need for food to be distributed to people who are hungry, and instructing the disciples to go feed the people and have faith in the community and in him to be able to find the way to get enough food so everyone got fed and there was a lot left over. Wouldn't it be nice if that's the circumstance and situation we have today in the United States, where people are getting fed well, and that food banks and pantries are not struggling every single day to try to make ends meet?
I think it's funny you mentioned that because the sermon this Sunday for me was about Ruth, and I was talking about how she was falling behind folks as they were cutting wheat, and that was one of the things back in the Judaic culture that to help people who had lost husbands, who had lost family members, and help feed and support, they could follow behind workers and get wheat. And Boaz goes, no, you can join my workers. You can get a better portion of the wheat. And he was generous in feeding her and her family for what she was doing in supporting Naomi. And so it is very intrinsic within the Bible, within the American culture, the American zeitgeist, to support people who are in need and who demonstrate that they're trying their very best, but they need a little extra help.
And that's primarily one of the principal messages and missions of the World Food Prize. It's our job, in part, not only to lift up an innovation that's helping to increase the production of food for people all over the world, but it's also our job at the World Food Prize to sort of remind folks about the need for quantity and quality and safety and affordability so that people here and around the world can be well fed. We had an interesting dialogue next in Washington, D.C. in March earlier this year. And Corey Fowler, who was one of the Food Prize laureates last year, made this comment, and I don't know if it was coming from him or if he was quoting somebody, but he essentially said, if you don't feed people, you feed conflict. And if you think about it, how true that is. I mean, the reality is if you have a lot of hungry people, regardless of the circumstances, they're not going to be very happy with their circumstance. And we find ourselves in most of the war-torn parts of the world, they share some commonality in that they are, at least 85% of them are food insecure. So you've got a lot of hungry people and in all likelihood a lot of unemployed people. So there stands to reason why there would be discontent and potential violence. So if we want a safer world, if we want a more secure world, one way to do that is by doing our part to the extent that we can to address this issue of hunger here at home and around the world.
This is Farm Here Daily. We will continue our conversation with Governor Vilsack in just a moment, but first let's take a look at the marketplace. And it was a negative close at the end of the trading session for Tuesday. July corn 3 cents down, 4.16 1/4. September falling 5 1/4 cents at 4.12 1/4. Soybeans in July 12 cents weaker at 10.46 3/4, with August down 11 3/4 at 10.50 1/4. Soybean meal in July $1.90 a ton, in the red at $280.50. July wheat 17 cents down, 5.35 3/4, with September falling 17.5 cents at 5.52. In the livestock market close for Tuesday, June live cattle down 70 cents a hundredweight, $221.60. August did see a bit of green, 17 cents higher at $209.55. Feeder cattle in August down 55 cents a hundredweight at $302.25, with September falling 17 cents at $302.45. Lean hogs in July, $1.22 a hundredweight in the red at $112.22, with August falling $2.10 to $110.95 a hundredweight. That is the Tuesday market close. This is Farm Here Daily. The Iowa Hunger Summit, it is July 16th, I believe. Tell me more about it.
Well, it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a free public event. The goal here, I think we'll likely invite several hundred people from around the state of Iowa who are food security leaders, hunger fighters from across Iowa. As I said earlier, the broad range of interests, nonprofits and charitable organizations, businesses, government officials, faith-based community leaders, academic institution leaders as well, educators. We're bringing in folks from outside of Iowa to talk about sort of the general challenge that we face nationally. We'll have folks from Feeding America, a tremendous organization that works with our food banks. We'll encourage folks from the summer feeding program to continue to focus on the need for us to focus on our children during the summer months in addition to the school meal program. We'll have some of our great school nutrition professionals come and visit with us about that school year and the importance of having good quality meals. We'll have folks who work in child care centers and daycare centers and senior centers. So it'll be the entire range, if you will, of people from early in life to senior years. It's going to be at the Hall of Laureates here in Des Moines. There'll be speakers and exhibits, so we'll have some panel discussions as well. The theme this year is from the ground up. And what we're trying to do here is to emphasize the importance of building sustainable, lifelong solutions to food insecurity. It's not enough to just do it sort of one-off. We need to have an entire system from early childhood to older adulthood that addresses the root cause of food insecurity, nutrition insecurity. And I say both food and nutrition insecurity because some people can be fed, but not necessarily always fed well. And so you want to be able to make sure that people not only get the right quality and quantity, but the right nutritional value out of the food that is available. So excited about that opportunity. And then, of course, we'll be followed by the opportunity to package hopefully 35,000 meals that will be available for distribution to food insecure Iowans after the event.
I'm going to pull something you just said there in terms of creating from the ground up the theme of this year, a system that is in place. That involves not just farmers, which we obviously love talking about on Farm Here Daily, but also the transportation, the preservation, the sites, locations. We always speak of food deserts as a big concern for folks in rural America as well as in the cities. What are some of the big tackling issues that you guys plan to look at within that topic?
Well, I think the question is what is currently being done and what needs to be done, and how can we improve on what's being done? So, for example, there are opportunities for schools to work collaboratively to improve school meals and to actually create a better relationship between the school, the nutrition professionals at the school, and the farmers in the area. If schools are encouraged to participate in farm-to-school programs. When I was Secretary of Agriculture, we at USDA had programs that encouraged and provided grants to schools to have a better understanding of what was being grown and raised in their general vicinity. We also sponsored what we refer to as local purchasing agreements that would have provided and did provide resources while I was Secretary to Secretaries of Agriculture, who in turn could provide resources to food banks and to schools to be able to purchase locally to create that connection, that synergy between producers of product here in the U.S. and in Iowa with schools and food banks, so that folks had a chance to get something that was locally produced and also create a bit of economic opportunity. So the idea here is to talk about the system that's in place, to figure out, are there things that could be done, as the federal government makes decisions as they are entitled to do about restricting or eliminating programs that may have provided help in the past. The question then becomes, it doesn't alleviate the necessity of having help. It just means that the rest of us have to pick up the pieces, if you will, and it sort of puts the responsibility and burden on us to figure out creative ways in which we could do more or leverage what we do to make sure that we're helping as many people as possible.
On something that's built on generosity and volunteers, it's really an important topic to see how you can alleviate that pressure. Exactly, because there are not as many people involved in this that there may be needed.
Well, look, it's understandable. Everyone's busy. There's a lot going on in life today, a lot of change taking place, and a lot of stress. And so it can be difficult for anyone to step back and say, well, do I have the time to donate an hour or two at a local food bank? Do I have an extra 10 or 20 or 30 bucks that I can basically provide to a food pantry or a school or a food bank to be able to help others? But here's I think the real important point here, which is that there is enormous power in community action and community activity. There is not a problem that is so large that the community can't address it in a very significant way if the community is engaged and if it is organized and if it leverages the contributions and the time and the donations and so forth that people do make available. So when you think about the nonprofit world, you think about some of the corporations and businesses we have here in central Iowa and in the state of Iowa. When you think about the faith-based communities and their responsibility, and you think about individuals who have been fortunate in this economy not to have to worry about where the next meal comes from. If you combine the capacity and the opportunity and the I guess capacity of these to basically provide assistance, provide help, there's enormous opportunity out here. And certainly the need is pretty great when 1 out of 8 Iowans, adult Iowans, is food insecure, 1 out of every 6 children food insecure. Just to put a finer point on this, that's 385,000 adults and 120,000, or 385,000 Iowans, that's 120,000 of them are children. So it's a pretty big number of people. So you wouldn't have to look very far walking down the street or driving on the highway before you would run across somebody who is probably coming from a food insecure family. And so that, I think, it's a wake-up call for all of us. And on the national level and on the global scale, obviously the challenge is even greater. The numbers are staggering. 733 million people on this earth today food insecure. That number is going to continue to grow as world populations increase, and nearly one out of every 10 malnourished. Not just food insecure, but hungry and malnourished to the point where they are dealing with probably some consequences, healthcare consequences. So it's a big challenge, and it's one that we have the capacity and capability of doing something significantly about. And I think that's what the Hunger Summit is about. That's what the World Food Prize Foundation in part is about, is making sure that people don't lose sight of this challenge and don't lose sight of the role that each of us can play.
Absolutely a wake-up call, and the Iowa Hunger Summit, we'll be chatting about that July 16th. Governor Vilsack, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do want to do a quick mention of the World Food Prize that's happening later in the year as well. When's that, and what are you excited about there?
Well, the India dialogue that I mentioned was September 8th and 9th in Delhi. The World Food Prize Borlaug Dialogue starts October 21st and 22nd and 23rd, and the laureate ceremony, I think, is on Thursday the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. 23rd, I'm sorry. It starts on the 20th. The Borlaug Dialogue starts on the 20th, goes to 20th, 21, and 22, and then the ceremony's on the 23rd.
Absolutely. Anything in particular you're really looking for there?
Well, I think there are a couple things. I mean, first of all, we're excited about opportunities to bring people from all over the world here. I think it's going to be important for people to understand the connection, which I made earlier, between food insecurity and global national security. I think there's a tendency to think that there's not a connection between people who are hungry and people who are committing horrific acts of violence. But the reality is there is a connection. And I think we are learning more and more about food being a weapon that is used in war more frequently and unfortunately and tragically. And so I think we want to raise the awareness of that. So we're bringing speakers in from outside Iowa who are experts in this area of national and global security to make that tie-in. So I think that'll be interesting for those who will be coming to this year's dialogue, which starts October 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and with the award ceremony on the 23rd. So I think it'll be interesting for folks to listen to that and to be exposed to that for the first time, if you will, in a context of the World Food Prize. Obviously, I think there's going to be some fantastic speakers. I don't want to get too far ahead of our PR and all of this, but we're excited about the lineup that we're developing. A lot of important people coming here to talk about this very important issue.
Well, I can think of already a dozen questions I'd like to ask on that topic, but I do want to be respectful of your time. Governor Tom Vilsack, former governor of Iowa, former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, and the CEO of the World Food Prize Foundation, joining us on Farm Here Daily. Really appreciate your time, Governor Vilsack.
Well, thank you. And, just a word of thanks to the farmers out there who listen to your show. Obviously, none of this happens. We're not a food secure nation, in that we are able to actually feed all of our people if we could get the food to everybody that was in need. The farmers do an amazing job for the United States, and we're blessed to have extraordinarily productive farmers and folks who are working every single day to make sure that we are a food secure nation. Not very many nations in the world can say that. We now just have to figure out taking that great work that the farmers do and converting it and making sure that our food banks, our pantries, and our government programs are working in a way that we reduce that food insecure number over time. So thanks to all the farmers who are listening.
Thanks again, Governor Vilsack. This is Farm Here Daily, a Field Forward podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Again, in order to continue to produce this type of local content, we would love to have you join our community. So please share it with your friends, follow the podcast, and check out our social media channels at Field Forward Pod. Additionally, you can find me on social media at Geiger Reports, as well as on TV, Channel 13 WHO, every weekday in their morning and noon hour programs. Again, I am your host, David Geiger, and I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody.